I want you in focus.
I'm much better, kind of, blurry. That's why I like getting drunk with you, because you look so much more in focus when I'm smashed. Like, Robert Benchley said, he said, I know my limit, but I always get smashed before I reach it. One of the common misconceptions, he said, talking like a professor of animation in the third-rate high school, one of the common misconceptions among a lot of people is that in animation you start either with a drawing or with a voice. And you never start with a drawing, you never start with a voice. As in live action, when you write, everyone recognizes that when you write a motion picture script, usually you haven't any idea who's going to star in it. And unless you're writing for Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then you write about muscle, and this kind of thing, big biceps. Normally what you do is write character, because you don't know who's going to play the part, and you don't really know what they look like. So you write what the personality is, which is exactly the same thing that I do if I'm originating or going to do a picture about a French skunk. And I think a lot about the character and who he is and where he is, but above all, where he is inside me. Because like Daffy Duck or Bugs Bunny or How the Grinch Stole Christmas or any of those characters, you have to find that character within yourself. Every character comes from within. You can't get anything from outside yourself. You may observe somebody and try to guess what they're like, but I know where the Grinch lives within me, and I know where Daffy lives within me, and so on. All I have to do is to reach down in there and pull Daffy out and expand him out, because I'm very foolish me, unlike Daffy, who rushes in and fears to tread at the same time. I'm a coward. I can only carry my bad citizenship to a certain point, and then I suddenly get to the point where I'm afraid of punishment, where Daffy doesn't. He continues on. So what you do is, with every character, is to try to find out who the character is, not what it is. What it is has nothing to do with it. We don't care what it looks like. Now, if you examine our characters, Bugs and Daffy, and the Coyote and Roadrunner and all those, most of them are not funny looking in themselves. Hopefully they're funny because of the way they move. That makes them actors, and that's the whole difference. Now then, we go ahead until I have a thorough understanding of what this character is, without ever being seen, I've ever seen him, or heard his voice or anything. All I know about him is who he is and how he's likely to respond to any kind of stimulus, getting married or chasing a girl or being confronted by an enemy or anything like that. I have to know about him. Then we reach the point where in live action we call it the casting. The picture has now been written and is handed to the director, and the director then calls in actors to review them and see if they could be converted to his idea of what the script is all about. And by he gets somebody who, generally speaking, will fit the purpose. In my case, when I get to that point, I know I have a French skunk. I know what his desires are and what his needs are. So then I start casting him by drawing. Now, it may take hundreds of drawings before I have it right. But, for instance, I don't want him too long-legged. I want him to be able to stand in elegant poses. I want him to, he's not active in the same way that Daffy Duck is, and he's not nearly as quite as elegant as Bugs Bunny is, who is a fairly elegant character. So I work with him, and I'll find a number of characters that don't work. Then I start trying out on expressions on his face to see how it works. Like in Pepe's case, it's I find that his eyes should usually be hooded a little bit, because it makes a much more sexy look when he looks at the audience, and there's that little quirk to his lips and so on. You find out all this sort of thing, and then you're ready to go. Now then, you have the character, you have the voice, you have the story, and the business that we call it. And then only at that point would I call an actor in, and Mel Blanc or whoever's going to do the voice. And I go over very carefully, and I go with them. I now have all the lines written because I've done several hundred drawings of the story. And in each case, I make the drawing, and then above that particular drawing, I put whatever dialogue it is. Like Pepe says, "Do not come with me to the Casbah. We shall make beautiful musics together right here." And that little "right here" is the way he would say it, and differentiates him from other people. So I go over every line of the picture with the actor, very carefully before we ever record. And since I've worked with them for at least 5, maybe 10 weeks, and so each line is well embedded into me, and I know what I'm going to say. So then I recorded, and the actor hasn't even seen the picture until then. And he spends maybe an hour with me in rehearsal, and then maybe an hour of recording. And I try not to ever tire an actor too much. After, say, 4 tries, if he hasn't gotten it right, I just go on to the next line. And I go all the way through the picture, and at the end, I'll say, Mel, or whoever the actor is, I'll say, Mel, you know that number 6 line, I think I didn't give you the right direction. I wonder if we could try a couple more. And he'd say, well, I don't think, it doesn't sound right to me either. You know, we both want to save face. Mm-hmm. So he then reads the lines, and he always gets them right at that time. But if you go on and make 7 and 8 and 9, what happens is that the actor gets very tired, and the following line's going to suffer for the fact you went too long on the other ones. There's a lot of diplomacy in working with actors. They tend to get dissatisfied with themselves, and they try to become directors beyond a certain point when they're doing lines, and they'll try to direct themselves. You don't want to do that because an animated cartoon runs at a given length. We have to be very careful we don't make our lines too long. And I'd like to say that in this picture, these wonderful girls have made them. Their editing is really excellent, fine, sharp editing. And we must remember this, that in animation, or in motion pictures and all, the only thing that we have that is different than other forms of graphics is time. And the only thing that counts is time. And motion pictures are a system of graphic timing. The individual picture is on the screen for 1/24th of a second. And there are 24 of these on the screen. The individual drawing doesn't mean very much, but if you want it to mean very much, you'll say, okay, I think Bugs Bunny should stop here and look at the audience for 24 frames. That's 1 second. So what I do is just put that on there and hold him in that one position. But the timing, that's the beauty of it. That's the wonder of it. And my father told me one time that he had been over at the Chaplin Studios when I was a little boy. We lived close to the Chaplin Studios, and he came home and he said he'd seen Chaplin do one scene around 15 seconds. He'd done it and performed it 132 times before he had it right. And I can understand that because in my case, I have found myself doing, at least 50 and sometimes over 100 drawings to get one expression correctly. What you can do is, and you can honestly say that art itself is the art of taking pains with what you do. And another thing that I think that we could add to this, another bit of profundity is that you never take yourself seriously, but you take your work very seriously. And the difference between them is the difference between Laurence Olivier and Jerry Lewis. Mm-hmm. Jerry Lewis takes himself seriously. Laurence Olivier takes his work seriously. And there all the difference lies. And this picture that these girls did, it's obviously they were taking the picture seriously. And so I must say that in all the years that I was making pictures, nobody paid any attention to me at all. I mean, as far as I was concerned, I was just making pictures. But there was no recognition of anybody in animation, including all the Disney people except Walt himself. He was the only name in animation. And as in the case of jazz, the first time that we were recognized at all, it was first in France. The French seemed to recognize odd things like American jazz and American musical comedy and American animation before anybody else in this country does. Maybe I've gone too far, too much. Anyway, that's my recitation for today, and I can now go to the principal's office.
Thank you.
Does that cover the land you want?
Sure does.